Good afternoon. That last conversation was a little hard to follow. We'll see if we can keep that dynamic going here. It highlights, though, the idea of partnerships and how we develop a network, right? And I think the vision that was shown there at the very end is somewhat what we need to do for everything we're doing. And so I'm really excited to be with some friends and partners to talk about what's going on in all aspects of how we build this ecosystem across the state. And one thing I want to add before I get into questions is everybody keeps talking about radical collaboration, right? It seems to be the word. So I think that's what we want to talk about, is how do we do radical collaboration? So I want to start with asking each of you to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your institution, a little bit about what you're doing and how you think about innovation and partnering with others. But Jason, I'm going to start with you because there was an announcement earlier this week that a few people in here might want to know a little bit about. So maybe you, as you introduce yourself, talk a little bit about
Did we say
that.
something?
Maybe.
So I work for Oracle. That's O, if you don't know, Oracle. And first of all, I have to apologize. I'm the guy with the U-Haul that might be blocking you guys. So we got the whole thing blocking you out in the street. So, well, first of all, bad joke. It didn't go over. I apologize. I'm trying to lighten it up. Come on, guys. U-Haul, we moved here? No. All right. Dad jokes work at home, but not here. It's a tough crowd. We're super excited to be here. Our founder made some comments on Tuesday with Senator Frist about our plans to move our headquarters, obviously, here to Nashville, Tennessee. We're super excited about it. If you don't know, we bought some land on the other side of the river a little while ago. We're right down the street from our friends, the Tennessee Titans. And we're going to obviously build a big campus, or as Larry said, we're going to build a park that'll have some buildings on it. And he's dead serious about the lake with the floating stage, if you saw the quote. So that is in the designs, I promise you, and it better be. I should say that we today have about 650, 700 people in Tennessee. And we have I won't call it a campus, we have space up in Capitol View on 11th Street. And we got 300-400 people who come to the office. Not as much as I'd like, but we're going to get them in more often now. So if we're going to talk about mobility and work from home, we'd want our people to come back in a little bit and join us in the office. And we're hiring today pretty aggressively and starting to fill up the offices here in Nashville. I'll just say a couple things. Just one is what Larry said yesterday, and a lot of folks have asked me in the last couple of years since I've been here, and really a lot in the last 2 days, is why Tennessee, why Nashville? And Larry kind of ended it, the commentary with Senator Frist on Tuesday with the statement that I think it's a great place for our employees to raise a family. And I want to make sure that you guys all hear that because it's really important. We were looking, and we've looked at a lot of places around the world, and we think Middle Tennessee and Nashville is a phenomenal place for our employees to, raise families and, have a great place to work, and it's an amazing culture, and the people are fantastic here. So all those things that make Tennessee so great, that's what attracted us. And I'll say from obviously you heard Larry, but for myself and everyone, we're here to fit in. We're here to be part of the community. We're part of the ecosystem. We want to collaborate radically, if that's what it is. We're not here to change Tennessee. We're not going to California or Austin your Tennessee. We're here to fit right in. We want to be part of it. So what makes Tennessee great, we want to embrace that and really embody that and be part of what you guys have all built.
Great, thanks. Susan?
Well, welcome to the company. It's such an exciting announcement, and so nice to meet you. I'm Susan Hubbard. I'm at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. You just heard a little bit from Kate in our quantum work. But, I'll just say Oak Ridge is close to Knoxville, about 30 miles away. It's one of 17 national laboratories that really serve the Department of Energy mission and address national priorities, sometimes global priorities. That said, in the last decade or so, maybe decade and a half, the laboratories have certainly played a much bigger role in their regional ecosystem, and there's real benefits for that, and I think we'll be talking about some of those today. Oak Ridge National Laboratory was spawned as part of the Manhattan Project to solve the mission of the day then, which was, building a bomb, winning a war. But of course, national priorities have changed, and like my partners from sister labs here, Argonne and Berkeley, and maybe others, we really focus on the missions of today, which is clean energy transition, national security, development of emerging technologies that we just heard about that's so incredibly important for our economic security and competitiveness in the nation. You asked about some of the drivers, I guess, of innovation, how we think about innovation. I think one of the characteristics of Oak Ridge National Laboratory is that it is a large lab. We have an extraordinary portfolio. It's a basic science lab, but it has a real translational ethos. And that plays out in many ways, and there's many levers that we use to try and help those discoveries move to technologies and get them out into the marketplace. And of course, a lot of that touches with our different partnerships. We have an internal investment portfolio that we try and draw on our ecosystem to advance and connect and sort of define new frontiers. In fact, some of that investment portfolio is what started our quantum efforts several years ago. It's what started our computing efforts. You heard about the exascale machine about 15 years ago. And so we really try hard to define what's our strengths and how can we crosswalk those with whether some of the emerging needs that we see some 10 and 20 years down the road. Something else that national laboratories are known for, and we don't think of them as much as engines of innovation, but they're user facilities. So national laboratories build and maintain and steward for the world large research infrastructure that are accessed by scientists and practitioners throughout the world. We take advantage of those, of course, ourselves at the laboratory. Some of those are very basic science. In fact, the computers that Kate showed is a computational user facility, but some of these really have a innovation theme. One of those is manufacturing demonstration facility. This is a facility that is funded by our applied part of Department of Energy. It's really pioneered large-scale additive manufacturing, and it hosts thousands of folks who come every year to think about how can they learn, build, take what they learn out and develop or augment their companies to really innovate. The pretty small amount of investment that DOE has put in this over the last decade has led to, if we just look at the top few companies, over $1 billion in economic returns, 200 technologies, 60 patents. So, there's different types of innovation elements, I think, to the national laboratories. Another one I'll just mention, and I'll hand it off to you, Deb, is we have entrepreneurial programs, and those are also very important for how do we take our technologies, invest in them internally, which we do also to get them to a point where companies can take and spin them out. And we have entrepreneurial spin-in programs and partner here on other entrepreneurial programs that we try and invest in so they not only advance their technologies, but actually stay in the ecosystem here to give back to it, and that's been a really important part. I'll say I've been in Tennessee 2 years now, just a little over 2 years, and one of the things I just find so refreshing and fantastic and super exciting is what's been said this morning, that real pulse and the momentum and the spark that's happening right now. I mean, innovation is all about, like we've heard, partnering and connected with like-minded individuals, and I have to say several of us have worked together on many things, and just figuring out, can we find that bigger vision that we're all interested in going to, and then sort of bringing our select strengths to bear. And it might not be a straight crosswalk A to Z, it might be multiple different paths to get there, but it's an exciting time here.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deb Crawford from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. It's wonderful to be here this afternoon. We are Tennessee's land-grant Research One university, and innovation lies at the very heart of what we do. We're here to serve the communities of Tennessee. We're here to educate Tennesseans. We're here to do world-class research that we translate out into the marketplace. We organize our innovation activities around 5 innovation gateways that we've defined for this period in our strategic vision. 2 of those gateways are very foundational gateways. One is around artificial intelligence, really important, obviously, to innovation across multiple sectors. Another is in materials and manufacturing, also really important to innovation across multiple sectors. The next 3 are more sector-specific, one in advanced energy, one in health, human health, and then one in the future, on the future of mobility. So very germane to the conversations happening here today. Our innovation gateways focus not just on the R&D that we do at our institution, but also around academic innovation. What kind of knowledge and skills do our students need to obtain in order to move out into careers and opportunities, as was discussed earlier today, when they graduate from our institution? We've formed several new education initiatives in the past few years to do exactly that. They align perfectly with our innovation gateways. We have a new College of Emerging and Collaborative Studies. Very much, the development of academic programs very much informed by industry needs. One of the first programs to roll out of the College of Emerging and Collaborative Studies is actually a new degree in applied AI. So that's AI not only in computer science or in tech, but AI for nursing, AI for physics, AI for manufacturing, AI for mobility. So really thinking about how we create these very flexible degree programs that industry is telling us they need. Another thing that's very important to the success of our innovation gateways is partnerships, right? So the people here on the platform just now, I work very closely with. We invite our industry partners into our innovation gateways. We're creating an ecosystem both within our institution that unites faculty and students from across many disciplines, as well as outside our institution with partners in Knoxville, in Tennessee, and in the nation, right? So we are trying to create these innovation gateway ecosystems that allow for the education of the future workforce, that creates the innovations that make their way out into the marketplace, and in easy ways create the startups of the future. We work really closely with our partners at Oak Ridge National Lab. We have many collaborative programs with them. We work very closely with Launch Tennessee as we look to make sure that the startups we create prosper and thrive right here in Tennessee. So really it's sort of all of these things knitted together that makes innovation happen here in Tennessee, and we're absolutely committed to seeing that through into the future.
Great. Lindsay?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm Lindsay Cox. I'm the CEO of Launch Tennessee. Deb, thank you for that tee-up with all the collaboration, which is very true. I think we've, Launch Tennessee has had the privilege and honor of collaborating with everybody on the stage in different capacities, including Oracle. You guys made Evan Goldberg available to us last year for our Tech and Innovation Conference 3686. So we were honored to have the founder of NetSuite, which was acquired by Oracle, host him here in Nashville. So Launch Tennessee, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We are also a public-private partnership with our friends at the state of Tennessee, statutorily created organization that really works on innovation and entrepreneurship all across the state of Tennessee. So we're kind of known for a handful of things really well. Those things are, number one, connecting a network of regional entrepreneur centers. So we have 8 regional entrepreneur centers all across our state. It's probably the number one question I get asked is, how does everybody in Tennessee get along so well? And we've been connected in this capacity really since Launch Tennessee's genesis. And so I think that has really helped us swim in the same direction. Much like we have our regional entrepreneur centers, we also have industry-specific partners that we work with specifically around startups in industries that are valuable to the state of Tennessee. So mobility, advanced energy, a couple of things you've heard today. Next up, our commercialization verticals. So we administer our state's SBIR, STTR matching fund program. We've had that program since 2017. It has done amazing things in our state in terms of company retention and then getting more innovators here, more innovators spinning up technology. And so really happy we just found out that that is going to be funded for this coming year. So a special shout out for SBIR today. We also work on the grant writing side, so actually helping founders get those SBIRs. Then we can come in with a match really to support the business side. So small business innovation research, for those who are familiar, you're really funding that research side. We Launch Tennessee are coming in with that match to fund the business development side. And then last but not least, we're also a direct investor. So we're now on our third investment fund, part of U.S. Treasury's SSBCI. You get all the acronyms with me today. The State Small Business Credit Initiative, Launch Tennessee, runs a $70 million equity program. So we do make direct investments into companies, $25,000 to $3 million check range. Really happy to say we have closed 12 investments so far, which is really exciting. We have a new one coming out, I won't say who, but is in partnership with one of our partners around the state who is also supporting young startups coming out of universities. So really thrilled to be seeing the deployment of that capital in terms of equity investment.
All right, so great introduction. So one thing I know over the last few years is that they've all made this sound easy, that we just innovate and we partner. It's not easy, right? But it's really important. And so I want to start this next question, Deb, with you and Susan, because you two are I still think of you as new in position, right? That they might not think that anymore. But they're both leading in the state in terms of how we partner. And it'd be great to hear some of the things you're doing and some of the things you see that are really working to make those partnerships that really drive innovation.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll say, Joe, it's too bad you didn't introduce TVA, because TVA itself is another sector, another partner, really important part to the ecosystem, right? And I think one thing that is great about our partnerships, they're all different organizations with different expertise, different drivers, different missions. And yet when we can come together around a common vision and bring our strengths to bear, right, and get something out of it as well, that's when it's really beautiful. Let me mention, a few different types of partnerships. Actually starting from TVA 80 years ago, the laboratory is here because TVA offered water and power, right? And then Oak Ridge showed you can get electricity the first time, showing that from a reactor, and on and on. Now you have a decarbonization strategy. Fission has grown up around the laboratory. It's the highest concentration, over 150 companies that work on nuclear energy than any place in the world. And now we're turning to fusion, right? But that's an example of partnerships. And of course, one of the top departments in the United States. That's a type of partnership that is long formed, it's sustained, it's self-sustaining now because of this partnership where we understand what we give to it, what we get out of it, and now we're turning from fission to fusion, right? And Brian Worth's in the audience somewhere, and we'll hear a great talk from him. So I would say that's a long-standing partnership that's already developed, and what I see has been going on with some of the conversations with folks here on the stage, and many of you in the audience, are new types of partnerships, but trying to get at the same thing. I'll say that some years ago, I don't know, Deb, you were here 5 years ago, 4 years ago, the state invested in a new partnership model between University of Tennessee and Oak Ridge National Laboratory to form the UT Oak Ridge Innovation Institute. Actually, David Scholl's here. David, he's our new director of the institute. That is a model for these organizations to work together to define what could be new innovation themes that's important for the state in the next 10 years. So a completely different model where it focuses on innovation, education, and workforce development. We've just named 2 new themes that we think will be big here in the next decade or so: radiopharmaceuticals, circular bioeconomy. We can come back to that. So that's a really neat model. That was an investment from the State Department of Energy and Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and it's an experiment, but I'm very, very hopeful, and it's exciting. One thing, and maybe I'll hand it off to you to say a little bit more, Deb, because you've taken this and really flown with it, is that folks here on the stage together with, I saw Victoria there and Padma's over there in the audience. Many of us work together, actually following up on the conversation from the earlier panel today on not just how to produce the cars in the state, but how do we think about the technologies that are needed to take EVs and the whole system to the next level. And it's not, it's not just making EVs, as we heard, and it's not just charging them, but it's how do we connect power, fuel, and secure the future of advanced mobilities, right? And what that needs is a whole interconnected suite of technologies that are at different stages of the development. So my sense from that is that we jointly sort of developed that vision. And it's playing out in different ways. Another one where we don't have a straightforward map to get from A to Z, but Victoria's working with, the governor picked it up and is funding some work in the state to move it to the next direction. We're working with federal sponsors, Department of Energy, to get input on that. And Deb, I'll hand it off to you. You can say something you've worked with federal NSF as well as a, sort of a, with that as a launch pad, I would say.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Susan. Yes, so in the spirit of radical collaboration, Joe, we are doing what happens in any strong innovation ecosystem. We are knitting together multiple sources of innovation. We're approaching multiple supporters of innovation for support for that innovation. And we are rallying all of the resources available in our state to do so. Susan just described some of the work at Oak Ridge National Lab. We have a consortium of over 150 organizations committed to the development of a regional innovation engine in the future of mobility. We'll be approaching NSF for funding in the level of $160 million later this year. It would not be possible without without the support of many of the people in this room, all of the people on this stage. It's that kind of effort that grows innovation economies in parts of the country that feel that they have been left behind. We're very fortunate here. I think it was Mayor Concannon who said earlier, we have a very strong non-profit and academic R&D base. We don't have a very strong industry R&D base at the moment. That's something we have to work on together. Super exciting to hear that Volkswagen is bringing their R&D capabilities here to Tennessee. We need to see more companies doing the same. Similarly, we need to do a better job of growing our high-tech startup community. And then attracting enough venture capital that keeps those companies here in Tennessee wouldn't be possible without the great work that Launch Tennessee is doing and that our partners in the Economic and Community Development Organization are doing too. So it really does take all of us to do the kinds of things that are possible here in Tennessee, because I think we all believe that we in Tennessee will be the future of mobility in the next couple of decades. And we're ever so grateful for the companies who are moving here and are growing here with us and the types of capabilities they're creating.
So that's great. And Lindsay, I want to come back to you and talk some more about that. But Jason, so Oracle's here, you're growing. How do you think about partnerships, and what kind of models do you, from an industry standpoint, think are important?
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting question, because when we look at the most complex problems that our customers have, a lot of the approaches historically have been, how do you solve one slice of that issue from a technology standpoint? And when you're going to change an industry, if you want to radically change the delivery of healthcare to have better patient outcomes, you can't do it on your own, right? And we live in a world of data, of process automation, of AI. One simple thing is, if you don't open your data to allow the free flow of that information, an MRI between two different health systems, right? If it's trapped, you're not going to get the outcome that the patient needs for the care, right? So using that as an example, since we're here in Nashville, we're taking an approach to be open, to be interoperable, to make sure that all of our systems, all of our applications work with everyone, including our biggest competitors, right? And what we actually need, though, is the collaboration from customers and partners to do the same thing and take that view. And so that's a hard thing in some cases. So we've got to put pressure, and we've got to make sure that, any system that's deployed that may trap that data or put it in a silo, that we've got a way to open it up. Because ultimately, it's in this case about how do you make sure that someone who comes in, in an ER situation or even a regular visit gets the best possible treatment they can. So we're actually looking at how do we work with not just other technology vendors to have interoperability. We're doing crazy things like we're putting our cloud inside of and partnering with Microsoft. Cats and dogs, living happily together, right? So things like that, to how do we work with our customers to make sure that they demand that interoperability among all these technology vendors. So it's a different time right now where you have some strange bedfellows, but I think that's the way the world's going, and that's what we have to embody and behave in terms of how we work with others.
Yeah, I like the concept of the strange bedfellows, because I think that's right. I think we're all trying to make things better. We all have our own drivers, but if we can bring those things together in those common places, right, that's where we'll see success. Okay, Lindsay, the state, it's easy to do innovation at the state, right? So what are you seeing that works?
I think, yes, very easy to do innovation at the state. Also, we do have a cat and dog, and they are good friends, so plug for that as well. I think we are doing a lot of things that are working. I think we could pour fuel on the fire of a lot of those things. And so, I'll cite a couple specific examples here. The Innovation Crossroads program that is run out of Oak Ridge National Lab is turning out amazing, amazing startups that are anchoring in Tennessee. And we'd like to think we're part of that anchoring, right? We're coming in with SBIR matches, 2-year commitment to the state, et cetera. But that's working. So we should do more of that, right? We know it's working. We're seeing it in real time. And that was a commitment that was made back in 2016, 2017 to invest in that program. And the fruit is coming now, right? And so I think keeping that mindset is really important. I've heard that kind of several times today in terms of innovation, where are we all just thinking about tomorrow and not 10 years from now? One of the other things I think is working, I'm really fortunate that at Launch Tennessee we get to kind of throw some spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, as is Startup Life. One of the initiatives we picked up this year that in the spirit of competitiveness and seeing what other states were doing and what was working, we have a counterpart organization in Kentucky, KSTC, Kentucky Science and Technology Corporation, and they have a program there called Kentucky Commercialization Ventures that supports their smaller schools, their smaller higher ed schools, in the commercialization of technology. And we looked at this model and we said we could do that in Tennessee. And so we picked up the phone, called our counterparts, really have worked with them day in and day out, got some one-time money to pilot it, and we've been piloting it. So we Launched Tennessee have been kind of offering this tech transfer support services in partnership with 3 of our schools, so University of Memphis, Tennessee State University, and Tennessee Tech University. And just since September, so we just started this in September, and we have had our first provisional patent come through the support system out of University of Memphis, which is really, really exciting. But we've also identified 314 new faculty members that weren't familiar with Launch Tennessee and the services we offer in terms of SBIR preparedness and investment capital, and those industry partners if they are working on a unique technology or their regional entrepreneur center, et cetera. And so that partnership is already fruiting, and I'm thrilled that, number one, we will be continuing that into next year. So we will have year 2 of our pilot and are hoping to add some additional Tennessee institutions. And we also could not do that without the support of UT Knoxville and Vanderbilt, who have really come in with their expertise and made themselves available to our team to really, tell us how we should be doing this and be those thought partners. And it's just such a meaningful collaboration in the spirit of all this that we think will yield true innovation, where we were not kind of putting our foot down, putting our foot on the gas before. And so all these really great things are happening, and we could just pour more fuel on the fire. And so I think that's my kind of challenge to the group is, why aren't we? And shouldn't we? I would think so.
So two things. One is that the fact that companies are innovating, they're building products, and they're staying here. Your example from Innovation Crossroads. From my perspective, that's wonderful, right? Because we're keeping companies here, they're growing, and a few of those companies are fixing my problems. So it's like, that is super cool. To your point about, though, pouring fuel on the fire, that sounds easy, right? I think there's probably a few challenges to all of this. What are some of the challenges you all are seeing to getting to the next level?
I mean, one of the big challenges is that risk component, right? What are we going to bet on, truly? What are we going to take that 30-year vision on and say this is where we're going to put our financial assets to work? Our financial assets, our brain power assets, et cetera. Tennessee is also a very industry diverse state. So there's actually a lot of opportunity, which is really interesting. I personally don't think we have to pick just one. I think we can just kind of lean in to innovation as a whole. But that is a real barrier and a real challenge. And Launch Tennessee had a study done back in the fall about how we're doing on kind of various TBED, tech-based economic development statistics relative to our peer states. So not California, not New York, not Boston, not even Florida, 11 peers, upper Midwest and Southeast, and we are lagging, and they are out investing us sizably. And those things are correlated. And so I think we really need to take a look at that. We're seeing North Carolina making a $500 million bet on their university commercialization over the next 10 years. I think we will need to really seriously consider what kind of bet we want to make on innovation.
Susan?
Can I follow up? I completely agree. I mean, everything's resource limited, and if we can figure out what to bet in, what the portfolio approach is, I just think we have such a better chance of getting that critical mass and starting to grow that up. I feel that the seeds of this are starting to be planted around different themes that we've already mentioned today. I mentioned that from the work that we did on the Connect, Compute, Power, Fuel the Future of Advanced Mobility, it's moved up to an initiative that the governor's picked up. The governor also picked up a nuclear bill and a council to figure out how to further invest in that. That's a really good start, And I mean, my sense is that once folks in the community have identified, here's a cool theme, maybe quantum and different things in different places, it not only helps for us to think about how we can invest internally in the state if that's possible to do, but also it helps us lean in when we see opportunities, right? And be able to tell each other, we can pull this in and pull that in. So I think I really like the idea of a portfolio approach for the state. I think it's a good thing that we should start to lean into and explore. I like the idea of innovation districts, maybe built around those. And, I think that's still a new topic for the state in a way, right? There are some, but we're still in a pretty early stage in that development. So these are challenges, but they're also opportunities.
I think, Joe, one of the challenges that we have here is preparing the workforce for the innovation economy of the future. If you look at, we've heard recently from the state that we need to produce an additional 10,000 engineers a year in order to meet industry's needs. We need to do something about that, right? We need to see more young Tennesseans thinking about careers in engineering and science fields. We need to be attracting engineers and scientists from outside the state to come to our state, to go to school here, to work here. I think that we also have to think about the types of academic programs that are offered in our community colleges and technical colleges. We heard from our Captains of Industry panel this afternoon about how closely Nissan particularly has worked with the TCATs, how closely Ford is working with the TCATs as they build Blue Oval City. We need to do more to be better connected across our higher education institutions and more intentional about how we're preparing students in those programs for careers in the innovation economy.
Jason, how are you all seeing that?
You know, it's you guys, you're so spot on. Okay, and we're taking an approach right now, and we're just getting going. But as you may have read, we're going to have 8, 9, 10,000 jobs here. You know, in kind of the broader Tennessee area in the new campus. And one of the things that we are going to do, and we're starting the conversation, we're going to talk after this with University of Tennessee Knoxville and Vanderbilt, and frankly, all around the area, we're starting to reach out and build these relationships. And when I think about how we're going to fill that campus, we're going to hire locally, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to embed early into the universities. And one thing that we've done, and this is not obviously in engineering, but one example is we have an onboarding and training program for salespeople. And so we're taking that, and I call it, we're open sourcing the IP and sharing it with the business schools all over Tennessee and in the area. And so we're saying, hey, this is what we do when we hire somebody and bring them on board. Take it. You can have it. We'll actually send our people to your school and teach classes, because what we want to do is we want you to take the class, get prepared, right? Do an internship with us, and then when you graduate, we've been with you. You've been trained our way. You know what we're looking for. You might have been on our campus, and when you show up on day one, you're ready to rock and roll. And that's the type of stuff we're going to do, whether it's in the sales degrees or technical consulting or engineering or finance or wherever. We want to embed. We want to embed early. But it even goes further. Like one of the conversations that I hope I don't get in trouble. We like to say things sometimes and get ourselves in trouble, but that's okay. So we're neighbors with the Titans. And so we've been talking with Burke and the team about, hey, we have classes for kids on coding. The Nissan Stadium's going to be open before our campus is open. What if we host coding classes for some of the kids that maybe can come in and use all their facilities in the new Nissan Stadium? Is that something that the community might benefit from? And so, Burke, I'm sorry, we're talking about this now, but we're going to do that with them, right? We're going to do that. And so as part of what, they're building an amazing facility, but it's not just for football. It's for all those other things, and it's going to be an open door for, bringing everybody in to the East Bank. And so those are the things that I think add a lot of value, and that's a long-term bet, right? We want the junior high kids, the high school kids, get them in early, not just to come and watch a football game, but maybe try coding, and if that's the path that they want to take, then there's an opportunity. They may be the next AI prompt engineer at Oracle.
I think that's really cool. I might want to send my grandkids there. So just anyway, I want to follow on that though. So, when we think about, or at least I think about it, and I think it was mentioned in one of the panels earlier today, we've got our large urban areas, right? And they have access to a lot of facilities, good school systems, et cetera. But Tennessee's a lot of rural, right? There is a whole lot of rural. We need those kids in your jobs, right? So, Deb or Susan, any thoughts about how do we bring in folks in the rural so that they can engage in innovation, right? Whether that's being trained to do a job or whether that's developing their own idea into a company and making it work. Any thoughts?
I'll just say I think it's starting early. And we're really proud at Launch Tennessee. We do have a mission to cover the state. There's 95 counties in Tennessee. This year we will have served, so had a program in 84 of 95 counties, which I think is a great statistic showing that folks in these communities the notion of innovation, of entrepreneurship, of what they can do. It is being embedded and translated, and I think will yield and fruit results. But, there are tactical programs that are working with, introducing coding in schools and taking kids out of, their communities, showing them the Oracle campus or the Nissan campus, just that innovation exposure without saying you have to move away, right? Because this is where it's all digital now. You can do that career from your hometown. And so I think it's really just about educating that option is now available.
And I think one of the assets that we tap to reach youth in rural areas is our Ag Extension program, presence in every county in Tennessee. We reach a lot of kids through Ag Extension and engage them in STEM programs that give them a sense of what careers in STEM might look like in the future.
Well, I'll build on a few things. We do some of the programs that you're mentioning you're going to do here where particularly for hot skills that we need at the laboratory, radiochemistry or computing technician, not something that needs sometimes a master's or a PhD. We are doing that with some of the schools out in the region. And so where we're going in and teaching classes, we're bringing them on site to get hands-on training. I think that's one thing, Joe, that's reaching out, in some of the more rural areas. The other thing I would say is the student programs. I mean, a lot of people don't know what national laboratories are, I think, and particularly if you're not, going through a university and being exposed in different ways. Our student programs have been growing. This year we expect 800 summer interns, for example, and it's a wonderful chance for folks to get to understand what it's like to work in a national laboratory, what it's like to work, on behalf of big team science, national mission. So we are really being intentional about how we spread the word about the opportunities and students in a real different ways these days. So I don't have stats to show how it turns out in terms of these folks' livelihood, but I know we're being real purposeful about how we reach out.
Great. Okay, so we got just a little bit of time left. So kind of lightning round here. If somebody's starting on a journey of innovation and figuring out how to partner, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them? Lindsay?
There are resources that will help you. We Launch Tennessee are a great place to start. If you're here in Nashville, our partner, the Nashville Entrepreneur Center, another great place to start. But truly, I think that spirit of just saying, hey, I have this idea and I need help with X. It's always been my experience in Tennessee, there is somebody willing to come to the table and help, to offer that mentorship, to offer guidance, to offer, depending on the idea, and if it's venture backable, to offer venture capital, et cetera. So I think it's partially you have to look around and ask, and you will find somebody who wants to talk to you about this.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Lindsay. I think on one of the earlier panels, people were asked about distinctive characteristics here, and it was people and culture. And I think that's really, really true. I'm obviously a transplant to Tennessee, and the connectivity here, Tennessee is not too big that you can't find somebody who's connected to somebody else really quickly. And I think that's the wonderful thing about the culture here is that people are willing to help. It is easy to partner. And then my only piece of advice would be remember that your partner also has interests of their own. And sort of as you seek that partnership, make sure that you're scratching their itches as well as your own.
Great advice.
Yeah, I'll double down on that. I mean, I think, and I'll just add to that, take a little bit of a longer view, right? Sometimes it takes a while for those partnerships to come around and add value and show an impact, right? But if we all lean in and trust each other and recognize that there's mutual benefit to be had from building on our select strengths, it's a good thing.
Jason?
I think on the piece of advice front, I think it's very starting a company, I've been an entrepreneur before. I've been through that. It's hard. But I think the question is, always have to ask, why do we do it that way? Right? Why is it? Get to that underlying issue or that principle. I think too often that is a hard thing to tackle. You probably see it, Lindsay. You folks definitely see it in terms of scientific breakthroughs and solving those tough problems. But I think you always have to start with that and question it and don't give up on it, because that's where you get the big leap. That's not incremental, modest improvement. That's like massive leap. So all entrepreneurs have to keep that in. I would say one thing, a selfish thing I'm going to say is we're open for business, right? And what I mean by that is we don't know what you all need from a partnership standpoint. We're having conversations, and what we're hearing is, we have a sort of a rough idea, but there are things that you're all probably doing. We're saying, hey, can you help us out on that? Come to us. There's no idea that's too crazy. We're open-minded. We're looking for all sorts of different things that we can do because we want to be part of the community and pitch in.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate the conversation.